It's summertime, and you know what that means? Vacation time. What better opportunity to find wines that you're not normally able to get your hands on? I'm going to let you know where I went and what wines I was able to get my hands on this episode of The Average Wine Enthusiast. Hi there, everybody. My name is Mike LaPlante, and I'm the Average Wine Enthusiast. I haven't done a show in a little while, and why is that? That's because I've been on vacation. It's summertime, and it's time to get away, and that's exactly what me and my beautiful wife did. We went on a little vacation, and of course, wine was involved with that vacation. So where did we go? We went to a provincial park, Presqu'île Provincial Park, in Ontario. It's an Ontario provincial park. And why did we pick this place? Well, that's because it is just west of a wine region known as Prince Edward County. It is on the north shore of Lake Ontario. Unlike the other main wine region in Ontario, which is the Niagara region, easy for me to say. And of course, I think a lot of folks are aware of that wine region. There's lots of wineries there, but that wine region is influenced by the warmer waters of Lake Erie and the waters of Lake Ontario, whereas Prince Edward County just has Lake Ontario as its main water influencer. So that was the main reason why we went up to that area, was we want to try out some wines in the Prince Edward County area. So we headed up to Presqu'île Provincial Park and did some camping. Fortunately, when we got there, we were blessed with the fact that our campsite was right on the lake, which we didn't plan on because there was supposed to be a campsite right across the path from ours, but it got washed away by the high waters that have been prevalent in this area. So we had a beautiful camping experience, woke up the next day, and we headed up to Prince Edward County. Now, there's about 35 wineries in this area, so picking and choosing which ones you're going to go to can be a bit of you don't know what you're doing. You could just end up with duds as far as that goes. But fortunately for us, we know someone who lives in Toronto, which is about a 2-hour drive from Prince Edward County, and they were able to recommend some wineries to us because they go on a regular basis. They said they've been going there for the last 15 years, and it's been growing constantly every year. We went with their recommendations. If you got recommendations, take them, because local knowledge is the best. So the first place that we went to was a winery called Norman Hardy. And Norman Hardy is a gentleman who makes wines. He's been all over the world. I think he's made wine in South America somewhere. He went to Australia, and he also is schooled in making wine in Burgundy, which for the most part, that's the kind of wines they make in Prince Edward County. Kind of cool climate grapes there. Some Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs are common in that area for sure. And Norman Hardy makes both of those types of wines. I think they also make a rosé there, which you can make a rosé out of any red grape as far as that goes, but they do that there as well. Not as good as French rosé, but it's pretty good. But as far as the wines that come out of Norman Hardy, I'd have to say of all the wineries we went to in Prince Edward County, that their wine was probably the highest quality of all of them. Then next, we went to a place called Clausen Chase, which also specialized in Pinots and Chardonnays. Their wines didn't really stick with me in terms of an impression that they made upon me, but the grounds were also very nice there as well. A really fun tasting. Oh, by the way, the guy who worked at Norman Hardy, his name was Tom, and he's from Windsor. What a coincidence. So anyway, then from Clausen Chase, we headed to a place that probably made the biggest impression upon me in terms of the winery itself. And that is a winery called By Chadse's Cairn. That's C-A-I-R-N. And what is a cairn? That is it's a rock monument that I believe comes from like the Druid area, before they started burying people. I think they piled rocks on top of them. But I think that improved over the years. Maybe if someone passed away in the wintertime, it's pretty hard to bury somebody, especially in a northern climate. So anyway, these cairns were a part of the land that this winery was built on. And Chadsey, I believe, is the guy who founded the farm way back in the The winery is on the back part of the property near a cemetery of all places, which has regular old gravestones in it. And the wines there were also Pinot and Chardonnay based as well. A lot of blends, and they call their wines by very specific names. Like, the 3 Point Hitch is one of them, I know. Another one's named after a horse that was very, part of the family sort of thing. So a lot of stories at the farm there, and a lot of their wines are named after characters or objects within these stories there. So that, I like that kind of aspect to it. And it was, all the grapes all the wines there only have fruit from the grapes that grow there, whereas opposed to both those other places that I mentioned, they both source some of their fruit from the Niagara area. And usually those wines are less expensive as well. So they always make it seem as though the grapes that grow in Prince Edward County are better and worth more money. So that was 3 wineries. I was ready to call it a day because 3 wineries, that's an average wine tasting day to go out and travel to 3 different wineries. And by the way, traveling in Prince Edward County to wineries, it's a very rural area, and some of these places are way in the boonies. And the roads there they need to do something about the roads. That was probably my biggest complaint about it, is to get from one winery to the other, you need to make sure that you have a good suspension system on your vehicle. So I was ready to call it a day, but my wife says, hey, this other place that our friend recommended, it's just around the corner, and it was called The Grange. So it was like it's 5 to 5 in the afternoon, and Google Maps is telling us it closes at 5 o'clock, but we went in anyway. Chairs are up on the tables. I feel so bad doing that to the people who work there. And I was really ready to go home, actually. We got to get back to the campsite and, start cooking some stuff up. But no, we went to the Grange, and it was a fun little place. They specialize in white varietals there, but they're all blends, and so they're not varietals. But they specialize in grapes like Chardonnays and Pinot Gris, or Grigios, I think is what they call them. And they do some blending there, and they make their wine their own. They also had a Pinot there on their tasting, but obviously it was at the bottom, so they I don't think they were too proud of their Pinot, and for a good reason, because it was very meh. But all in all, a fun place, the Grange, for sure. A great place to share some stories, for sure. So the next day, we headed up to Quebec. We went to Mont-Tremblant, where some family live. And the reason I was so excited to get to Quebec is because where they sell the wine there is very similar to the LCBO here, but it's called the SAQ. Different letters meaning all the same thing, but that is the Société de Alcool de Québec. So I just call it the SAQ, SAQ. Just make it a word. LCBO doesn't ring off your syllable. See, that doesn't work. SAQ, that's a word I can actually say. SAQ. Put your bottles in the sack. But the reason I'm excited about it is because the SAQ stock lots of wines from France. Now, the SAQ over the years has the way they sell their alcohol and the establishments they have in the province has changed. They have the SAQ depots, which is where you go to buy cases of stuff. They don't sell single bottles there, I don't think. The SAQ Express, which is, we do have some of those here in Ontario, just little stores that don't carry a very large selection, have limited stock. The SAQ Classique, and that is, of course, just a regular store. Nothing special about it. It's the same way they probably had been set up for decades now. And the SAQ Selection, so this is where they have the the section in the store where you can get the good stuff, if you know what I mean. So that's where I tried to go. And in Mont-Tremblant, they have a SAQ selection. So we went in there, and the thing about the SAQs is in the French section, they cover all the wine regions within France, whereas you go to the Italian section and they cover the main ones, Tuscan for sure, and they definitely play up the French wines, which is good for me because I know some French wines now, and I knew that I wanted to get some Gigondas, wine from Gigondas, which I happen to be drinking right now. Some delicious Domaine Saint-Damien. Some good stuff there. And they also had other Gigondas wine as well as other Rhone Valley wines that I knew that I wanted to bring home. And that's what we did. So from our trip to Prince Edward County to our trip to the SAQs in Quebec, we brought home about 2.5 cases of wine. Some local Ontario wine along with a bunch of French wine as well. So that was nice. We also, as soon as we got home, another reason why it's been a while since I did one of these shows is because I went to Chicago to go to, I don't know if you can read my shirt or not, MacStock 2019. If you're an Apple geek, this is the place to go, especially if you're anywhere near the Midwest. And even if you're not, there's people there from, not Amsterdam, but people from the Netherlands visited, and people from England have been there. But the reason I was excited to go there, because in the state of Illinois, they have stores there called Binny's, which blows any SAQ out of the water as far as their selection of French wines go. The stores are just massive, and they have, they cover wines from all over the world, and you can get pretty much anything you're looking for. And as well, on their website, you can, see if the Binny's down the road carries what you're looking for, and if it doesn't, you can find out which Binny's does. So if you're ever in Illinois and you're looking for a decent bottle of wine, go to a Binny's. So yeah, that's a little update on where I've been and the wines that I've been sampling and procuring, and I'll be sure to tell you about some goodies that I was able to find on this trip in a later episode. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go is pronunciations. The pronunciation of French words in general is tough, but there's a lot of words in the wine realm that can trip people up because they're different languages, and I speak English solely. I don't really know how to speak any other language fluently. So as someone who has been going along on his wine journey, I've learned, how to say a lot of the names of red wines. Of course, there's Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot Noir. You could mispronounce these wines, I suppose. But now that I'm getting into the white wine realm, there's white wines that I am coming across that I like, but I have been mispronouncing them. One example is I just started getting turned on to Riesling wine. But when I first started getting into it, I started pronouncing it as Riesling. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I know it sounds like a German word, and Riesling sounds like the proper way to say that word, and just based on the way it looks. But it's Riesling. Another one of my favorites is Gewürztraminer. Looks nothing like the way you say it. So yeah, that's Gewürztraminer, another white wine out there that I remember buying my first bottle of Gewürztraminer, and I totally butchered the pronunciation of it, and it was a really good wine though. As far as a white wine goes, I remember really liking it. But Gewürztraminer, much like lots of French wine, you have to drink a lot of them to really understand what's a good one and what's a meh one. So as I go on making episodes of this show, I may mispronounce something, or I'll try to find out what the correct pronunciation of the whatever it is, the country a word that belongs to the country where this wine comes from, or the actual wine itself. So it's Riesling, not Riesling. I guess that's going to do it for this episode. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this show. It's been a learning experience for me, that's for sure. Tell your friends about it. If they're into wine, let them know about the show, and let them know what this show is all about. If they have any comments, please leave them down below. I'd like to thank the Big Organ Trio for supplying the music for this show. Until next time, everybody, I'm Mike LaPlante, and I'm the Average Wine Enthusiast. Salute!